Hello everyone. You are on the channel Top Time, and today we will learn about the top 10 the most popular weapon in the world. Let's go! 10. PKK. More than a million. The Kalashnikov machine gun is a universal machine gun designed by Mikhail Kalashnikov. During his life, Kalashnikov created several effective and unpretentious models of firearms that changed the history of the second half of the 20th century. There are 6 official varieties of the Kalashnikov machine gun, and a huge number of unofficial foreign models. The machine gun is capable of firing 750 rounds per minute. The caliber of the bullets used in it is 7.62 by 54 millimeters. The PC is popular with guerrilla groups and people's militias for its wide applicability and ease of use. The machine gun can be used as a machine gun, mounted on a tripod machine, or as an armored personnel carrier, mounted using a bracket. The machine gun was used in almost all armed conflicts of the second half of the 20th century and is still produced in Russia and other countries. 9. M1911. More than 2 million. A legendary pistol that has existed longer than any other service weapon. It was developed by the legendary John Browning for the Colt Company more than 100 years ago. During the existence of the pistol, at least 2 million of its samples were produced. It has been used in the U.S. military services for 79 years. Most of the samples in use now are the 1926 model M1911A. The M1911 was used both by the Soviet Army, to which it was supplied as an aid during the war, and by Nazi Germany, which uses this model as a trophy weapon. Now these pistols are used in many countries, starting with Haiti and ending with Luxembourg. 8. MP5. MP5, created by the German firm Heckler & Koch in 1966, is used by many special units and services of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Western countries. To date, more than 50 MP5 modifications have been created, which dominate the small arms market for the Internal Affairs services to this day. The only real competitor in this market is the successor of UMP, created by the same firm. Ironically, the German army did not adopt the MP5 for economic reasons. Instead, they licensed the Israeli UZI submachine gun. The main factor in the success of the MP5 is that the company did not develop it from scratch, but simply successfully adapted its most popular and well-proven G3 rifle to urban battles and enclosed spaces. 7. FAL. More than 2 million. While the Kalashnikov assault rifle was in service with all the Warsaw Pact countries, the same pattern was observed with the FAL assault rifle in NATO countries throughout the Cold War. Although this automatic rifle has received the informal nickname the right hand of the free world, but at the moment it is used by the people's militias. The long popularity of the FAL is explained by the possibility of targeted fire at distances of 600 meters and a rate of fire of 700 rounds per minute. This is one of the classic automatic rifles of the second half of the 20th century, and at least 2 million copies have been produced since its creation. It was in service with various groups, ranging from Islamic fundamentalists from the Philippines to the British Army. 6. G3. G3 was created by Heckler & Koch in the last years of World War II in West Germany. Along with the FAL and AR-10, the G3 was created taking into account NATO specifications and competed in the race for the title of the main rifle in the armies of Western countries until the end of the 50s. In 1959, the Bundeswehr, German army, adopted the G3, after which a huge number of its copies were released. Just like the AK-47, the G3 is an example of how, after the end of the Cold War, many states began to sell their surplus weapons around the world. For this reason, G3 was used in the Portuguese colonial war and even in the drug war in Mexico. 5. AR-15. More than 8 million. In 1956, the Armalite Company introduced the AR-10, with the revolutionary at that time the ability to switch the fire mode, semi-automatic and automatic, but it did not impress the U.S. Army so much that the AR-10 became a standard infantry automatic rifle. Nevertheless, Armalite decided to release 100 prototypes of this rifle for the arms dealer Samuel Cummings, so that he would try to find a foreign customer interested in the AR-10. Cummings almost made a deal to supply 7,500 copies to Nicaragua, but when the general of the Nicaraguan army, Anastasia Somoza, independently tested the strength of the rifle, a piece of the weapon came off and flew past Anastasia's head. After this incident, the deal was cancelled and Armalite found themselves in a desperate situation. In an attempt to save the company, Armalite chief engineer Yevgeny Stoner tried to create a self-loading rifle AR-15. The rights to it were immediately sold to the Colt Company, who were able to convince the US Army to adopt it under the M16 brand. The M16 became an iconic weapon of the Americans in the Vietnam War and subsequently developed into the M4 submachine gun, which is now in service. 4. RPG-7, more than 9 million. The RPG-7 handheld anti-tank grenade launcher is the most widely used anti-tank weapon in the world. The grenade launcher is used to fight against all types of enemy armored vehicles, as well as in some cases against infantry. More than 9 million RPG copies have been produced by the Soviet Union since the end of World War II. This grenade launcher has already become legendary by right, along with its PKM and AK-47 comrades. Copies are produced to this day, thanks to its good price-quality ratio. It is even used by US troops in training the Afghan National Police due to the extreme prevalence of the grenade launcher in Afghanistan. 3. UZI, more than 10 million. UZI became legendary in particular thanks to the famous scene of the shooting of gangsters by the hero of the cult film Scarface, Tony Montana. UZI, one of Israel's most famous export products, was created in 1951, and its more recognized mini and micro variants were developed in 1982 and 83, respectively. The armed forces of more than 90 countries, as well as a huge number of special forces, are armed with this submachine gun. Being the main competitor of the MP5, UZI was able to fill the niche of light, rapid-fire and inconspicuous weapons. By this time, more than 10 million copies of UZI had already been released worldwide. 2. Remington, more than 10 million. Being the only shotgun on this list, Remington leaves all other guns far behind in its popularity. At least 10 million of these pump-action guns have been produced since 1951. The main advantages of the Remington are the low cost of production and the ability to shoot both buckshot and bullets up to .28 caliber. The rifle is equally popular among both the civilian population and the military, and is present in any US department related to weapons. Remington is represented in half of the G20 countries, although China uses it without a license, and has been seen in 80 films. An interesting fact is the widespread use of this model, although Remington was not used by the people's militias and rebels in armed conflicts disapproved by the UN. 1. AK-47, more than 100 million. The Kalashnikov assault rifle model 1947, created by Mikhail Kalashnikov, is the most popular weapon of this list and of all time. The machine gun was created by Kalashnikov after he saw how poorly equipped the Red Army was compared to the army of Nazi Germany, armed with submachine guns like MP-40 and STG-44. From that moment on, a competition began in the USSR to develop a submachine gun for the Soviet Army. Taking into account the terrible conditions of the Eastern Front, Kalashnikov has developed the most reliable weapon in the world. The AK-47 was adopted by the Soviet Army in 1949 and was first used during the Chinese Communist Revolution. Of course, the AK-47 and other modifications of Kalashnikov assault rifles are the most anticipated item on this list. The machine is widely known in popular culture and has even been placed on the flag of Mozambique. During the Cold War, 100 million copies of them were released. AK has been the best export product of Russia and Ukraine since the end of the Cold War. This was aptly noticed by the hero of Nicolas Cage in the film The Gun Baron. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe and like. See you soon.